Welcome to the Parenting with Confidence podcast. I am your host, Teresa Alexander Inman, board certified behavior analyst and infant toddler developmental specialist. Today, I am so excited to speak to Ali. His life's purpose and mission is to inspire many people as possible to live longer, healthier, happier, and more joyful lives. He does this by using his skills and experience in health, fitness, well-being, human performance, mindset, and spirituality to help individuals become optimally healthy at all levels, mind, body, and spirit. So welcome, Ali. It's so great to have you here.
Hi, Teresa. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Now, we'll just jump right in because you know what really caught me was your tagline, you, but better. I'm gonna ask you, how can you make me better?
How do you want me to make you better?
That's an even better question. So, what kind of people do you work with? Like when people come to you, what do they present with, and how can you help them?
That's really interesting. So I'll give you a little bit of backstory for you and your audience. So for the last 14 years of my life, I've been in the health and fitness industry. I've worked as a personal trainer. So I did that from 2008 till 2011 in a big gym in a private health club. And then I went on to be a personal trainer, running my own personal training business for 5 years from 2011 till 2016. And then from 2017, January until now, I've been running my own gym called Kinetic Fitness with my wife. So it's a 9,000 square foot facility. We do gym membership, personal training, small group training, and we just help people to be better versions of themselves and get in the best shape of their life. So a lot of the clients that I've worked with for the last few years, over a decade now, are what you can imagine: people wanting to lose weight, wanting to get fit, wanting to change their body shape, maybe performing better for a sport. And a lot of my focus for a long period of my career in health and fitness was centered around biomechanics and human movement and what we call applied functional science. So that's been my bread and butter for the last decade or over a decade. But now I'm kind of changing tact of what I'm doing, and I'm helping more now guys primarily, so men between the ages of 20 and 35 who are aspiring entrepreneurs. I'm helping them to discover their life's purpose and live a life of fulfillment on their terms. So it's mainly people that are maybe where I was 7 or 8 years ago, and I'm trying to help them to become better versions of themselves, level up, and just live a longer, healthier, happier, more joyful life, as you mentioned earlier. That's kind of my mission and my purpose. So the people that come see me at the moment or recently is those health and fitness clients, but I'm moving more towards helping primarily men, because I think there's a lot of men out there that are struggling and do need that help, and they're the kind of people I want to work with. So you've caught me at a time where I'm in a big transitional period of my life.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Because you know what? So often, I know on my podcast, we focus on women because, you know, women are the ones who do most of the parenting traditionally. And yes, I'm really happy that we're able to lend some information to, you know, to men to help them. Because if, you know, what really bothers me as parents, we focus so much on children, we neglect ourselves, not realizing that if we take better care of ourselves, we can in turn be better parents, not just physically and have the energy, but better models for children as to what a human being, because we're raising human beings, we're not raising children, we're raising adults, really, because they're not going to remain children forever. So it's just nice to be able to speak to men to help them be better so they can do better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's paramount. What you mentioned there is so important. And it's a message that I put out on my social media, on podcasts, on my own podcast. And it's taking care of yourself first. It's the most paramount thing, the most important thing that you can do as a human being, but also as a parent, as an individual, is to look after yourself first. Take care of yourself. And when I say that to people, they sometimes say, oh, well, that's being selfish. That's selfish to put yourself first. But it's actually not. It's the most selfless act you can do for yourself and for other people, for your fellow human beings, is to take care of yourself first. Because when you do that, then you can be a better version of yourself. You can show up as your most fullest and authentic self as well. And then you can navigate through life with more grace and ease, and hopefully attract more health, attract more wealth, attract more happiness into your life. So taking care of yourself is paramount on all levels, mind, body, spirit, the whole lot.
Absolutely. Listen, I fully agree with you here. You're preaching to the choir. Now, how does somebody who has not put themselves first, how do they start that process?
Very good question. I think the starting point really is to firstly take stock of where you're at. So a lot of people, they don't stop and slow down and ask themselves deep and important questions. So if you've been a person that's constantly neglected yourself or put other people before yourself, a great starting point is just to sit down somewhere peaceful, somewhere quiet on your own where you won't be distracted, and take stock of your life. And this might sound quite deep and a lot to do, but just ask yourself some simple questions such as, what do I want? Why am I here? How can I be a better person? How can I help others more effectively? What are my dreams? What are my goals? What are my aspirations? A lot of these questions we ask them when we're younger, but then when we get into adult life and we start getting a career or we have children, we stop asking these questions and we forget to take stock and slow down. So that's a good starting point, is to find out where you're at right now. Once you find that out, then I think it's really important to create a future vision for yourself, or you can call it a dream or a desire, however you want to label it. So picture yourself in the future. It doesn't have to be 5, 10 years. It could just be 6 months from now, or 5 months from now, or a year from now. How do you want your life to be? How do you want it to look like? What do you want it to look like? How do you want to feel? How do you want to act? How do you want to interact with other people, with your children, with your spouse, with your partner, with your siblings, with your parents? How do you want that to be? So visualize that, or write it down and write your vision down of how you want it to be. And then off the back of that, then you can start to set some goals. And for me, goals are anything that's less than a year, really. Anything beyond a year, I call it a vision. So anything that's less than a year is a goal. So set yourself a goal or a couple of goals. And then once you've set those goals, then you need to take action on them. And the best way to take action on them is to pick one habit that you want to create and you want to start, or one habit that you want to get rid of, that you want to stop, maybe a bad habit, and just pick one and then start to take action and work on that. And when you start to take action, then what happens after you take action is you start to get momentum. After you get momentum, you start to get consistency. And after you get consistency, you start to get results. And ultimately, if we want to change and we want to be better versions of ourselves, we want an end result. So that's a great way to do it. It's how I work with a lot of my clients is visualize, well, take stock of where you're at, get some data of where you're at, visualize where you want to be or set a vision for yourself, write down some goals, and then take action on those goals by creating habits or getting rid of bad habits. And the key point on the back of this, as well as I've already mentioned, is just do one thing at a time. We can only do one thing at a time. We can't multitask. Multitasking is a myth. And especially as men, we can only do one thing at a time, or maybe even half a thing. Women are a little bit better at it. They can maybe do like one and a half things tops, but just pick one thing. Don't try and change everything. And I'll talk to you about this from a health perspective. When people want to lose weight, for example, what do? They go and join a gym. They try and work out 5 times a week. They try and change their whole diet. They start maybe consuming positive content. They try and get to bed on a regular time. They try and change everything all at once. And what happens? They fail on pretty much all of it. Or they might do it for a week or two or a month if they're lucky, and then they fail on it and they end up going back to where they were before, or even worst case scenario, going backwards, which is what we never want. So just pick one thing, do one thing at a time, because you can't do everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, because I think too, we tend to overwhelm ourselves by trying to do so many things, and it's like nothing works. So that is a
Exactly.
really good way of looking at it. You know, and so many people I work with, they'll say, well, why didn't I think of that? Well, first of all, if it was easy, I wouldn't have a job. And secondly, when you're in the middle of it, you're really not, you can't be objective. So that's why it's important to have somebody like you around to help, us put those goals and make them objective and also realistic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. Now, when we look at, health and wealth and happiness, what are the biggest keys here? Like, we're looking at improving. So you said that taking one step at, starting with one thing and building that momentum. Is there anything else that you would recommend?
Well, you spoke about three different areas there. So
Yeah.
let's start with health.
Mhm.
So for me, health, the best way to improve your health or to look after your health or to nurture your health is to take a holistic approach.
Mhm.
So holistic or holism just means being whole, being whole, being as complete as possible. So for me, holistic health is a healthy mind, a healthy body, and a healthy spirit. And if you don't like the word spirit or spirituality, just say emotional or emotional well-being, emotional health, because I know spiritual has a lot of connotations and hang-ups with a lot of people. So if you don't like the word spiritual, just use emotional. So our physical health, our mental health, and our emotional or our spiritual health, we need to look after all three of them. So you need to do a practice on each of those or a habit on each of those or create something that's going to work on each of those areas. Again, only one at a time. Don't try and bite off more than you can chew. So that's how I help people improve their health. And that's how your audience can improve their health by focusing not just on exercise or not just on healthy eating, on the complete spectrum. You've got to have it all, in my eyes, if you want to be optimally healthy. And another thing to mention about health is for life.
Yes.
It's not just something that you pick up and then you put back down. You need to do it all the time. It needs to be from now until the day you die. You've got to take care of your health because you only get one vessel in this lifetime. You only get one body. It's the only place you have to live, as Jim Rohn said. So you need to take care of it. You need to look after it. Our bodies are incredible, but we just abuse them. But they still keep coming back until one time something bad happens, and then you're like, "Why me? Why did this happen to me?" Well, you did this to yourself. So you've got to take care of your health from now until the day you die. It's really, really important. Make it a part of your life. And it's also the same thing. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It's the slow game, the long game. And that's why a lot of people don't take their health serious because we live in this time of instant gratification.
Mhm.
We want everything now. Amazon, Netflix, social media. We want it now, now, now. And nobody plays the long game anymore. There's no such thing as an overnight success. You've got to do the long game. You've got to enjoy the journey, play the long game. So that's health. Wealth, that depends on how you define wealth. Everyone's definition will be different. Yours will be different to mine. And a lot of people, when you say wealth, they think of material gains
Yes.
or monetary. But to me, wealth to me is freedom. So it's being able to do what I want when I want, but also having a wealth in all areas of my life. So a wealth of health, a wealth of happiness, a wealth of relationships, a wealth of experiences. So again, wealth depends on how you define it, and that'll be different for each individual. But if people want to improve their monetary health and their financial health and their abundance, you can do that. And then the last one, happiness. To me, happiness is a couple of things. Firstly, it's being present in the moment.
Mhm.
So when we're present and we're grounded in the now, we tend to be a lot happier.
Mhm.
And also, happiness is creating experiences. And when do we create experiences that we truly remember and that bring us happiness? We create them in the now. So they're kind of two in one. But another thing to tag on to happiness is that happiness is a choice.
Yes.
And a lot of people are choosing not to be happy. They're choosing to be miserable. And we spoke off air about childhood trauma and programming and this kind of stuff. You've got to realize that from a young age, you were programmed by your parents and it's not their fault. It just happened. And these things stick with you and you need to unpick that. So you may be choosing to be negative or unhappy because of stuff that's happened in your childhood, or it might be because of the content that you're consuming. So what are you consuming? Are you listening to like aggressive hip hop that's got loads of swearing and killing in, and nothing against hip hop because I love hip hop? And are you watching the news where it's all about fear and war and people dying and all this bad stuff? And are you on social media scrolling and your whole scrolling feed is full of negative stuff, or you're comparing yourself to others? You can choose to change all of this. You can choose how to live your life. You can choose to be happy. So happiness is being in the moment, being present, creating experiences, and choosing to be happy. And then when I talk about joy, which you didn't mention, but that's a big thing for me. To me, joy, being joyful, is like happiness on acid. It's like, yeah, you just like nothing can touch you. It's like, yeah, I'm joyful. I've got my armor on. I'm blessed. Everything's great.
Right. And thank you for making that distinction, because I usually say, happiness is based on what happens to you, and joy is just something that you just embody. And
Exactly.
so regardless what happens, because people are like, well, how could you do that? And like you said, it's a choice. And so many people choose for whatever reason to be miserable. And that is really sad, because they feel that, well, I'm a parent, I have this responsibility, that responsibility. But your first responsibility, and to help you be that parent that you want to be, is to yourself.
Yep. Yep. And taking ownership. I mean, a lot of adults that I know, they don't take ownership for where they are. They blame everything else. They blame the media, the government, the monetary system, financial system, their parents, their siblings, the boss at work. There's all this blame game and these excuses, and they don't take ownership for where they're at. The only reason why you have all this is because of you. Simple as that. It's as simple as that. You have to take ownership of your own life if you want to live it in the best way. If you want to be the best version of yourself, you've got to take ownership, in my opinion.
And I agree with you right there. Dr. Steve G. Jones, I believe he said, we all have a value of one. It doesn't matter who you are, we're all a value of one. And it's what you do with that that makes the difference. So I can have nothing and create something, or you could have something and out of that comes nothing. So it's just it's the choices that we make
Yeah. He's an
that make
amazing
that
guy as well.
value.
He's been on our podcast.
Oh, really? Awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. A
Yeah.
long time ago, one of my earlier episodes, so people can check that out. He's a great guy.
Nice. Yeah, I took his life coaching course. So
Yeah.
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 Awesome. So, Ali, tell us, what was the tipping point for you? When you decided to start working on yourself and change things, because there is for everyone, and maybe there's somebody who is where you were that you can speak to help, come to where you are.
Yeah. My mate, my friend, we say mate here in
Yes.
England. Yeah,
Yeah.
my mate, my friend, he has a great saying for this. He calls them his sledgehammer moments. And he says that everyone has sledgehammer moments in their life. And if you look back at the timeline of your life, everyone listening to this or watching this will have these sledgehammer moments, these points in their life where something's changed, tipped over the edge, or they've made a change. We all have these sledgehammer moments. And I think that's a great way to describe it.
Mhm.
And one of the biggest ones for me was in May 2015. At the start of 2015, I had a lot of changes going on in my life. I ended a 7.5 year relationship, moved out of the house that I owned with my ex girlfriend. She was still living in the house. I had a mortgage on the house. I was paying half of the bills, paying half of the mortgage, and I was sleeping on my mum and dad's sofa, literally on the sofa. And then after 2 weeks of being there, whoop-de-doo, they moved me out of the living room on into my dad's office onto a camp bed. So I was staying on a camp bed, and at one end was my dad's printer, and the other end was my dad's shredder, and then there was some books like falling on me all the time. So it was a crazy time. And in May 2015, I decided to visit my friend in Scottsdale, Arizona. He was living there at the time. And we went to an amazing place called Sedona. And some of your audience may be familiar with Sedona, but Sedona is a really magical place. There's all these beautiful red rocks there, and people have said they've seen aliens there. They've had spiritual awakenings there. It's a very sacred area to the indigenous people, all of this kind of stuff. And I didn't know anything about it at the time. My friend said to me, we're going to go to Sedona. We're going to check it out. I was like, what's Sedona? He's like, just come along, check it out. So we went, we did all this hiking. And then at one point we sat on the edge of this rock, And my friend said to me, do you want to try meditation? And I looked at him like, I don't know anything about meditation. I'm not into spirituality. My friend had just recently got into it a few years before because he was living in Seattle at the time and he'd actually tried to take his own life, and spirituality basically saved him from taking his own life. So he said, don't worry, I'll guide you through it. So he guided me through this meditation, and it was the most incredible, most magical experience in my life. Very difficult for me to put into words, but I felt so present. I felt so loved. I felt so nurtured. I got this amazing beam of white light coming into me, and it was just absolutely incredible. And when we came out of the meditation, and my mate said to me, "How was that?" And I was like, "Wow, what was that? That was incredible." And he was like, "You must take to this really well." My friend Paul, he said, "You must be really responsive to it." And I was like, "Cool, I enjoyed it." A little bit further into the trip, we was hiking up Cathedral Rock. We hiked back down Cathedral Rock, and then halfway down, we stopped and we did another meditation. And this time, loads of crazy stuff happened to me. So I was getting almost like clairaudience, which if people don't know what that is, it's clear hearing. So I was hearing voices coming in. I was actually having my wife talk to me telepathically, even though she was back in the UK. And then I was starting to get pushed. I had this magnetic energy pushing me over. And my friend Paul was saying, "What are you doing? Why are you doing that?" And I said, "That's not me. That's an energy." And he was like, "Shut up. Yeah, right." And then he came the other side of me, pushed me, and then the energy pushed me back. And it was just like this energy and my friend pushing me side to side. And I was just in the middle of it. And he was like, "No way, this is crazy." And I've now learned that there's a lot of magnetic energy in Sedona, a lot of vortices. There's all these ley lines running through Sedona, all of this stuff that I didn't know about at the time. I was just kind of in the moment with it happening to me. And ever since that day, when I found meditation in Sedona and I technically had a spiritual awakening and I found spirituality in air quotes, my whole life has changed. My whole life has catapulted. I decided to take care of myself. Like we said, putting myself first, really working on myself from all angles: mind, body, spirit, personal development, self growth, developing and nurturing a growth mindset. And my whole life has accelerated. I'm now married to my wife, who's the woman of my dreams, my soulmate. I have a relatively successful business. I'm starting my online coaching business now. I have a successful podcast that's listened to in over 90 countries. So life's a blessing, and it all started there. So that was my big turning point when everything changed. And whether that was because I found meditation, or whether that was because I was in Sedona, or whether it was a combination, I don't know. And maybe I'll never know, but maybe that's the whole point. So that was my kind of turning point.
Awesome. And maybe you were just open and ready for it. Because,
Exactly.
sometimes we resist things and wonder why nothing changes. And sometimes these are small things because that was not, it didn't take a huge effort for you to
No,
have that experience.
yeah,
It's just a matter of being open.
exactly.
So, wow, thank you for sharing that.
No, it's
Amazing
it's an
story.
incredible part of my life, and something that was so life changing for me that I'm happy to share it because it was so powerful. But the key thing is, you don't need to have these experiences. You don't need to wait for that, or you don't need to wait for something bad to happen. That's what a lot of people do. They
Mhm.
wait for something bad to happen and then they make a change. Don't wait. You can do it now. You can take action. As soon as you've stopped listening to this episode, you can take action right now. Even if it's a little change, it could be just, oh, I'm going to spend 5 more minutes with my children. I'm going to eat 10 portions of fruit and vegetables. I'm going to drink more water. I'm going to go for a walk. It doesn't have to be a big thing, but little things make all the difference.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to put a punctuation mark on where you said, spend 5 minutes with your children. Please make that undistracted because they'll know if you're distracted and the quality won't be there. And, they can sense that maybe they don't matter to you as much. So when you spend those 5 minutes, because it's better to spend 5 minutes intensively focused on them than to spend 2 hours distracted. So I love that you mentioned that. And because it's really important.
Just for the record, I'm not a parent, by the way.
And you don't have to be. It's just about being a person and helping people because like we were talking about before, we are people first. before we became parents. So we have to continue to be people first, taking care of ourselves so we can be the best parent. Right now, I mean, you're laying the groundwork. If you ever decide to become a parent, you have it all. You're a model for your children of, a holistic health, which is the best way to approach everything is holistically instead of working on this part of you and that part of you.
Yeah.
And
What I will say, Teresa, and this is going out to all everyone, but especially to parents, is if you're listening to this and you've been inspired by it, is you don't have to make the same mistakes that your parents and your ancestors made. You don't have to do that. You don't have to continue the lineage of this ancestral trauma and this ancestral programming. It can stop right now with you. You can make the changes so that what you pass on to your children is not what you learn and what's been passed down and handed down and all this generational trauma. You can stop it right now and be a better man or a better woman and a better parent than your parents were. And it starts right now with you.
And I'm going to stop right there because that is so powerful. And I don't want to muddy it with anything else. Not that anything we're going to say is going to muddy it, but I want to just leave that like 3 exclamation points right there and have parents just focus on that because that is super, super powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Ali, thank you so much for your time. It's been an honor and
My pleasure.
fun. So maybe one day we'll do this again.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And when I'm in Florida, I'll hit you up.
Yes, please do that. And my goal is to head out to London one day. I'm not sure when, but I've got family there and they're like, oh, come on, I need to head over. So yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, I'll probably be gone by then because that's in the pipeline. We're moving away, me and my wife. So yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
We're going to Mexico, so
Ooh, beautiful.
yeah.
All right. Well, we'll stay connected because I know how to get a hold of you.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Be
Thank you.
well. Okay. And I appreciate you.
Thank you.